Alright, I'm in one of those unlazy periods, so I might as well get some videos done and dusted. Finally, after like 2 goddamn weeks, I'm finally putting out some decklist videos in accordance with the new ban list. So we're going to start off with an old classic. This was actually my first ever decklist video back in the day. I'm going to do some Blackwings. Because why the shit not? So, evidently, like, I did a couple of deck lists back right when I first started doing stuff on this channel, and then sort of threw it aside because the deck was just nah. And now, basically, with the new ban list, this deck's been helped out a considerable amount. So I thought I'd put it back together. I haven't done a whole lot of testing on it, in all fairness. So here's basically just sort of like a build that I seem to like the look of. So obviously Vayu, you could probably maybe run a second one of these. I mean, I've got a second one, I've got a super rare one, but I just can't really find the room for it, and I think one will do the trick, in all fairness. We got Gales, because Gales is a Gale, gotta be rolling that. Zephyros is pretty damn awesome. It wrecks a fair bit of face. You have a whole bunch of options with this thing, considering, you know, all the continuous spells and traps and stuff like that. So you've got options for this thing. It's really, really nice. Then there's 2 Blizzard. Don't really need the third one, and that's pretty much just the general consensus of just about everyone. If I did run the 3, that would result in a lot of bitching, and not just from other people, because they're like, oh, you run 3, you should only really run 2. I'll be bitching as well, because I don't have a third freaking rare, but that's beside the point. I mean, if you've seen my videos long enough, then you should know my opinion on running multiple copies of the same card. Then there's a couple of Siroccos, Cyber Dragon, sort of. Sucks you have to normal summon it, but then again, it does get Black Whirlwind off, so it's not really that big a deal. And it's really good for pumping shit up. Then there's Triple Colute, the honest of the deck. This thing's freaking awesome. Shit's all over Counterpunch. I mean, yes, Battling Boxes are kind of cool, but yeah, this shit's all over Counterpunch. More power, plus you can use it multiple times. So, kind of question why it got put back up to 3. It's a bit weird, that one. 3 Bora, because goats. Like, do I even need to say anything? Just goats. You think this thing will put in so much work against goats. Then Shura, once again, well, yeah, obviously kind of got to do my obligatory bitching, but no, I'm not even going to do that. Just whatever. Get these out, you know, go Vayu, sync up, because Vayu, must remember, while Vayu does say it cannot be used for a synchro summon, that is actually an effect that is applied on the field, not a condition. So if it gets summoned and its effects negated, then it can be used for synchroing. So that's very good to remember. Then boss, obvious boss, Dark Dragon. Right, so let's move on to spells. 3 Black Whirlwind. Like, I've never played Blackwings with 3 Black Whirlwind. This thing is probably just going to be incredibly busted. I think throughout my entire history of playing Blackwings, I think I've only ever played Blackwings with Whirlwind at once, so this is definitely a change of pace. Then we got, for other draw power, we got 1 cast Black Feathers and Allure of Darkness, just for those sorts of things. Couple pots, because they're pretty good. Don't really need 3. Then 3 MSTs for the standard back rotate, and then Book of Moon and Dark Hole. Pretty straightforward sort of spell lineup. Couldn't obviously, you know, people could say throw lances in there. It's not really that necessary. The lance, at least not in this particular deck. I mean, it's an awesome card, this format, but I don't even have them going spare, so because they're all shoved in my Chaos Dragon deck, so that's my excuse. So whatever. Anyways, traps, Icarus attack. This you could say is another reason, because if your opponent, if you can force out your opponent's only bottomless, you just trip it off. You just trip your monster off with this and just wreck a whole lot of face. Basically, it's basically what works in the way that if your opponent's basically making you do it, then you're plussing, because aside from that, it's basically just a 2 for 2. Anyways, Delta Crow. I love this frickin' card. It is basically like End Phase MST, except in Heavy Storm form, with Blackwings. It's just incredibly awesome. Plus, can't forget this one. You can play it from the hand. If you have 3 Blackwings on your board, exactly 3 Blackwings on your board, you can drop it straight from the hand. Then we have Double Claw the Haunted, because it's actually pretty good working with Zephyros, because you know, if you bring back the you stack the monster that you bring back for an Exceed summon, this thing's going to get locked, so you just bounce it. And you just be like, haha, bring it back. Bottomless at 1, Compulse at 1, D-Prison at 1, because I've got to be bloody stingy with my use of my D-Prisons, because I still only have the 2 copies, the other one's in my Constellas. Then 1 Torrential, just the 1 Mirror Force, and a Solemn Warning. And what the heck was that? Okay, I've got no idea what the heck that was. Some bloody thing was moving around over there. So yeah, that's the main deck. I believe that's 41. I think it's 41. Yeah, I want to say it's 41. Anyways, on to extra deck, which it's a bit like it's still pretty good, but I don't know. I can definitely see some areas where I could possibly change things up. Anyways, start things off, we've got Mistworm. Just, you know, it's a Mistworm. Would be nice to see would be nice to have gotten the Trish back like what they did in the OCG, but apparently that's just being trollsy. Anyways, Silverwind. It should be established that the only real way that I have to drop Silverwind in this is by going with a couple of Kaloots and a Blizzard. I mean, that aside from the obvious Vayu Wing play, Armor Master play even. It's actually not too bad a card. It's pretty good. I think it's just there more for the Vayu plays, and it should be established that if this or any other Blackwing monster is summoned through Vayu's effect, with their effects negated, if it gets balked, then it gets flipped back up, then it gets its effects back, which is really, really nice. I'm not sure if that... I'm pretty sure that ruling still stands. Because I know it existed like a few years back, but I'm not too sure if that stays the same now. There's no reason to believe that it doesn't. Anyways, Dark Arm Dragon, because, yeah, it's not too bad. And Scrap Dragon's in another deck, so, yeah. And Crimson Blader, because this kicks Dragon's ass. And it's actually good for the mirror to make sure that your opponent doesn't go for a freaking Armor Master. Speaking of which, I'm going to go with two of those. Because it's pretty much like... It's basically like the ace of the deck, so... Then we got Black Rose, the Resident Field Nuke. 1 Armed Wing. I did have 2, but I decided to cut 1 for something else. Which is... I think I cut it for one of my Seas monsters. It is still pretty good though. It would be nice to have one of these to banish a Vayu, but if I'm going to banish Vayu for anything, it will almost certainly be something maybe bigger than like maybe the second Armor Master or the Silverwind. So that's why I don't really need a second Armed Wing that hugely. Then there's Orient Dragon, another freaking busted ass card in the mirror, because you know, get rid of the Armor Master is pretty much the thing to deal with Blackwings, even if you're not running Blackwings yourself. So, and basically anything that can synchro for a 6 really easily gets this thing. Gets the Armor Master off the board, which is really, really nice. Then we got Gaia Knight, because it's just a generic beat stick. And for 5s, I have Vortex the Whirlwind. Now this is actually kind of cool. I haven't seen a whole lot of decks for this format use this. It's actually pretty decent. It's 21. You can go into it with Shura and get Vayu effect negated, blah blah blah. Basically with this and the way this deck runs, you know that you have a whole bunch of options with this thing. If it gets destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon level 4 lower winged beast from the deck. And basically the way this works is, if your opponent's only got like one big monster and you and they run into this and they die, then you just get something out like a Gale or something, which you can then use next turn to cut the opponent's big monster in half. And if you've got another Blackwing in your hand, you can drop that. Even better if it's Borer, because that's a special, and you still have your normal summon up your sleeve for doing some other kind of shtick. If your monster is almost dead certain to get killed, then you get a Zephyros, because the Zephyros works brilliantly in the grave. So you have a whole bunch of options here, and being only 21 attack, it's not actually that difficult for this thing to be run over, which is actually a good thing. So, and that's the reason why I like it. I used to run it in the older deck lists that I had, and I used to run Dark Samorg as well, because I would open with Shura so often, and then just get the value and go into this. I just have Dark Samorg set up whenever I topped into it, so it was really nice to have. I couldn't fit Dark Samorg in this build though, which is unfortunate. And then for the other level 5, I've got Catasta, which I can finally use, and I finally have broken my 4-year duck of not having one, blah blah blah. Anyways, for Xyzs, we got Ice Beast Seraphine. This is another kind of cool card. God damn it, I made a frickin' pun without intending to. My apologies. My bad. But basically, it's a pretty decent card. Actually, you know what? Okay. I thought for a second there that Winged Beast should have had a hyphen between it, but apparently it does not. Okay, that was weird. Alright, enough of the weirdness. This thing's actually pretty damn good. What it does is 2 level 4 Winged Beasts to overlay for it. Detaching 1 overlay unit negates the effects of all face-up cards that the opponent controls, and then for each face-up card on the board, this thing gains 300 attack. Basically, straight off the bat, if you even have 1 Black Whirlwind on the board when you use this, it's a 2/3. If you have a big monster that you're dealing with, that your opponent's dealing, that you have to deal with on your opponent's board, then that's 2/6. And then the thing just kind of just snowballs from there on and becomes a bit of a beat stick. And this lasts until your next standby phase, so it's not going to just go to the end phase and then go back to 2000 and make it a piece of piss to run over. It's not going to be that much of a problem. It's actually really nice. Then there's Key Beetle, just as an extra sort of barrier to keep Black Whirlwind safe, or you can just get rid of the Black Whirlwind to keep this thing on the board if you value the 2/5 beat stick more. And Direwolf, because the amount of swarming that this deck does, you can pretty much get a whole bunch of little friggin' Blackwings on the board, overlay a couple level 4s into this thing, and then basically sort of like just target like a useless blizzard on your board and just destroy it with this thing and just proceed to wreck a fair bit of face, which is kind of cool. Now, side deck, I was actually considering just not showing the side decks for any of these decks since they are all experimental, but I might as well go yellow so I can show them off anyway. So for this one, I've got 2 Fossil Diner, once again to deal with dragons. 1 Electric Virus, once again for more dragons. Puppet Plant, just for pretty much the Prophecy matchup, if anything. If they're any sort of warrior base, you know, people might still play heroes, people might still play 6 samurais, even though they've lost a couple of their awesome cards, but, you know, can't really rule anything out. Puppet Plant's just there for the Prophecy setup there. Then we got Chalice, because it's just kind of useful like that. A couple of Soul Takers, again, just kind of useful like that. 1 Erad, 1 Deck Dev. I mean, you could easily main these, but I side them because not every deck is going to get hurt by these things, so, and you top into those, they're going to be completely dead. So it's better to just side them in against matchups that you know that they're going to be useful against. Double Fiendish Chain. Double Imperial Iron Wall. Yes, it does conflict a little bit with Ryu, but point is, you don't want any of your other shit getting banished. Plus, once again, having to deal with dragons. And Gozen Match, because this deck fucking really wrecks so much face with the Gozen Match. The Gozen Match has actually made me thought of not using Vortex and instead using TG Hyper Librarian, because basically in that regard, if I Gozen Matched with a Vortex on board, then I can't summon any of my Blackwings and I've got a 21 monster, which is not exactly the greatest thing to have. I mean, yeah, you could run it over and do that sort of thing, but your opponent's probably gonna be smart enough to not see this and just be like, okay, let's just keep this on the board. He can't summon anything else. So that is it for the Blackwing deck list. Coming up, I've got Chaos Dragons, Constellas, Battling Boxers, interestingly enough, and Dark Magician. That's just probably going to freaking skyrocket in views. And I might actually update my Exodia as well. So, don't know when they're coming up. I'm probably going to do one more deck list before I have to go and do stuff. So, yeah, see you for the next video, whatever it is.